Hello, welcome to day 5 of the 7-day outline challenge. How are you guys feeling? We're more than halfway done, which is the good news, but I know yesterday was kind of a lot of information condensed down to a brief presentation and a pretty big assignment to build a character completely. So it's all right if you didn't get it done completely, but I hope that you got some of the work done at least, a good chunk of it to understand your protagonist and be able to move on to today's subject because understanding your character, first and foremost, is the deciding factor in being able to move to today's topic of creating conflict. Because once you understand your character, you have to develop the challenges that they're going to face. And that's what we're talking about today, which is a little bit more fun. Even though I think character development is super fun, it's tedious and gruesome sometimes. So creating conflict might be a little bit of work, but it's not nearly as much work as creating an entire character. And it's a little bit more fun because you get to, think of all sorts of different ways to make your character's lives miserable. So today's discussion, we're going to talk about a little bit about what conflict is, the different types of conflicts that there are, and I have some ideas for you to consider as you're developing conflicts for your own characters. So conflict really serves the purpose of adding context and depth to the story. A story flows because a character sets a goal, faces a problem, reacts to said problem, makes decision, and sets another goal, the process repeating over and over and over again, and the story propelling forward. It's also what connects the reader to the storyline, because readers want to understand and feel what the characters are feeling. They want an emotional response to your writing. If it's a sad situation, they want to cry. If it's a thriller, they want to be thrilled. If it's a horror novel, they want to be scared. If it's a mystery, they want to be surprised. If it's a little bit of everything, they just want to experience your novel in an emotional and responsive way that isn't the mere idea of just reading words on a page. If they wanted to read just words on a page, they would go and read a textbook. A story takes a lot of work and consideration, and you are awesome for doing it because A, the world needs more stories, and B, stories are not easy to write. They're not easy to get the reader to connect to them either. It takes a lot of work. But to make it just a little bit easier, we're going to talk about conflict because conflict is what makes the world go round. Now, there's 4 types of conflict, and really these are things that every single human being faces. None of us have the perfect life. All of us experience challenges. All of us have goals, have problems that come because of them, have to react and deal and overcome with said challenges. So do our characters. And so the first kind of conflict that your character is going to have is an obstacle, which is really like a little bump in the road. It doesn't stop the character, but it makes them have to turn or go in a different direction than what they were already heading, and it causes a little bit of tension and problems as they set out to reach a goal. Next, there's challenges, which are the situations that really come up and are pretty much a road closed sign preventing the character from reaching their goal, and there's not a detour sign in sight. So it's something that they actually have to work at overcoming. Then there is a hardship, and this is a little different than the challenge in the way that it's more a problem of emotional or physical difficulty that is blocking or stopping them from meeting their goal. So it's still a challenge, but it's not just the challenge of I'm lost and the road is closed and I don't know which way to turn and not having to figure it out, to having an actual handicap, like they physically cannot do something or they emotionally are too distraught to handle the situation and have to first deal with that before they can figure out how to fix the situation and the challenge to go about meeting their goal. And the final kind of conflict is a crisis. And a crisis is really the climax of your story. This is the big overreaching problem that has been driving the entire story and what the main character's goal is really about fixing. It's the big problem that is harming the character or people the character cares about, and the one thing that really needs to be dealt with in the story. All of the other types of conflicts are the little things that come up in the day to day of the character's life, like they come up in our day to day as people. No day is perfect. Every day will have a challenge. It can be big, it can be small. But life isn't meant to be easy. And so we can't make life too easy for our characters either. They have to experience conflicts. So, some ideas for you, as I just mentioned, think of your own day to day. What does your life look like? What challenges do you tend to face on repeat? That is going to be a really great starting point for trying to figure out the little things, the nuances that your character is going to have in their day to day. I mean, it can literally be something as small as they're sick and still have to go to work because they need to pay the bills, but they feel miserable, to a big problem as they majorly screwed up at work and are being called into their manager's office right now about to be fired and have to figure out a way to talk their way out of that and save their job. Those are examples for characters, but these are also situations that people really face in the world on a daily basis. Some problems are big, some problems are small, but we all have them and we all have them daily. So think of them to start getting some ideas for the conflicts you might want in your own novel. And then you're going to want to balance. You do not want all of the conflicts to be too big. They're going to distract from the overall reaching crisis that your character is trying to solve. But again, you don't want little problems too small to be noticeable. So you want kind of an even mixture of them, and you kind of have to figure out some of those situations. And then finally, you're going to want to consider the consequences of the problem. How do you react to your problem? When you have a challenge presented before you or an obstacle, think of a time when it ended up well, and then think of a time when it didn't end up so well. We all make mistakes. We all have to make decisions in every situation. Sometimes those decisions are not great decisions and they lead us into bigger problems. The same thing's true for our characters. But the important thing with a story is that the very next part of the story critically depends on the consequence of the problem and how your character deals with it, because that's going to influence what they decide to do next. So start thinking about those. Moving right into the exercise. I told you today was a little bit easier and a little bit more fun. So, all right, I really want you to just sit down and list out problems. Make a list of 30 to 50. I mean, that's just a really good range, I feel, of challenges, big and small, that your protagonist may encounter. Because you are going to want these later, like tomorrow, when you're developing the situations your character is going to face. Can't give too much away, but we're going to be covering probably the longest and most tiresome process of the outline tomorrow, but it sometimes looks and feels a little bit worse than it actually is once you get going. So I promise it's not so bad, even though that this sounds ominous, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Thanks again for watching.